All right, today we are diving headfirst into one of the most bizarre, most influential, and honestly most mind-bending accounts in all of ancient history, the vision of the prophet Ezekiel. For centuries, this story has stumped theologians and, let's be real, fueled some absolutely wild theories.
I mean, just imagine it for a second. You're just hanging out by a river in ancient Babylon, and suddenly the sky just tears open. What Ezekiel said he saw that day was so otherworldly, so completely strange, that we are still trying to figure it out thousands of years later.
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we need to understand the man himself and the crisis he was living through. Then we'll get into the good stuff, the bizarre creatures that came out of a storm, the famous wheels within wheels, and the grand finale, a throne up in the sky. And finally, we'll get into the big debate. What does it all actually mean?
Okay, so before we get to the UFOs and angels, we have to understand the context. This vision didn't happen on some peaceful, meditative afternoon. No, this was a revelation that was born out of pure chaos.
You have to remember, Ezekiel is in exile. His people have been dragged from their home, and everything they hold sacred, their temple in Jerusalem, is on the verge of being completely wiped out. This is a moment of total and utter despair. It's a national crisis, a spiritual crisis, and boom. Right in the middle of all that trauma, the sky opens. So let's put ourselves in Ezekiel's shoes, standing by that river. All of a sudden, this massive storm cloud rolls in from the north. But this is no ordinary cloud. It's flashing with fire, there's this brilliant light all around it, and right in the center, something that glows like molten metal.
And then, out of the fire itself emerge not one, but 4 living creatures. And trust me, these are unlike any animal you've ever seen or even imagined.
Okay, get ready for this. Each creature has 4 different faces: a man, a lion, an ox, and an eagle. They've got 4 wings, human hands tucked up under those wings, and their legs are perfectly straight, ending in feet like a calf's hoof. Oh, and the whole thing gleams like polished bronze. It's like a mashup of the most powerful symbols of life, all rolled into one unbelievable being.
But you know, as strange as those creatures were, it's what came with them that has really captured the modern imagination. Because next to each one of these beings was something else, right there on the ground.
The Hebrew word for these things is ophanim. It literally just means wheels. And in later traditions, these wheels aren't just objects. They're considered their own class of angel, forever connected to the cherubim creatures they move with. And this is where it gets really nuts. The text describes a wheel intersecting another wheel, a kind of gyroscopic structure. This thing could move forward, backward, left, or right without ever having to turn. Its rims were described as being high and awesome, and get this, they were completely covered all the way around with eyes.
So you have these creatures and these bizarre wheels moving in perfect sync, but Ezekiel's attention is then drawn upward, higher and higher, to the absolute focal point of this entire spectacle. Right over the heads of these creatures, there was something like a platform, or a dome, a firmament that glittered with the awesome gleam of ice. It's like this barrier separating whatever this is from, well, whatever is next. And there it is, the climax of the vision. On top of this crystal platform, a throne that looked like it was carved from pure sapphire. And on that throne, a figure that had the appearance of a man, just surrounded by this radiant, rainbow-like glow. This is what it was all about. The creatures, the wheels, they were carrying the very throne of God.
So, what do you even do with a vision like that? For thousands of years, the conversation was all about theological symbolism. But then, in the 20th century, a completely different, and I mean radically different idea took hold.
So you've got 2 competing interpretations. On one side, the classic theological view. This whole thing is a powerful metaphor. God's throne isn't stuck in a temple in Jerusalem. It's a mobile chariot that can be with his people anywhere, even in exile. The eyes, they mean he's all-seeing. But then you have the ancient astronaut theory, which reads this thing like an instruction manual. The wheels are a landing gear, the eyes are lights or sensors, and the entire vision is a close encounter with an advanced vehicle.
Now that extraterrestrial idea, it really went mainstream in 1974 with a book called The Spaceships of Ezekiel. And what's fascinating is that it was written by Joseph F. Blumrich, who was a NASA engineer. He actually argued that from an engineering point of view, Ezekiel's description was a pretty plausible blueprint for an omnidirectional spacecraft.
So in the end, we're left with this incredibly potent vision. It was a message of divine power in a time of human collapse, a weird fusion of biology and machinery, and a story that became both a foundation for theology and a cornerstone for theories about ancient aliens.
And that really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? Was Ezekiel, a man of his time, trying to describe the indescribable glory of God using the most powerful symbols he had? Or was he a man from the Bronze Age doing his absolute best to describe a piece of technology so advanced it just seemed like magic? The text is there for us to read, but what it means? Well, that's still up for debate.